This is a special episode of the Mom Curious podcast because I'm joined by a returning guest. Her name is Libby Ward. You probably already know her. She used to be the Diary of an Honest Mom, but now she just goes by her name. And her new book is called Honest Motherhood. And it's a memoir that goes into the trials and tribulations of her early life and how she became a maternal mental health advocate. Funny lady on the internet with a heart of gold. This is the Mom Curious podcast, where we say the quiet part out loud about womanhood, motherhood, and everything in between.
And I still have a couple of the vials.
Shut up!
No, you shut up. I kept them. So
you're just hoarding sperm?
No,
that was a joke.
That was a joke. That was a joke. 30, like my mid 30s, when like my body started changing and stuff after shitting out 3 kids.
Stop taking advice from people on the internet, like myself included.
And I didn't realize how heavy that would be, and that loving my children would not be enough to make me not a basket case.
And that gave me the freedom to do something for myself.
And it's an adventure that is not just all doom and gloom.
You know better. And if you didn't, now you know better.
You advocate for mothers in a way that feels so personal, because you're advocating for yourself, for your own mom, for your grandmother, who I read about having needed to go to a mental institution and then making 5 babies.
How?
Like, and for your own daughter, like, it is a personal pursuit. I'm very, very, very grateful that you have the bravery and strength to do it. But it's a lot of work.
Thank you. Yeah, it is a lot of work. And it's so funny how just when I started to find a semblance of, oh, this is how I can mother in a way that allows me to be a whole human being and a good mom at the same time, and I'm feeling a semblance of like, oh, I think I can do this, then I was like, hey, why don't we just start sharing online and then having a public platform and then learning to do that.
Which is hard.
Learning to do that. Yeah, it's hard. It's like, it's so interesting. We talk about being a content creator, writing a book, all these things. And there's so many similarities to motherhood, whereby it's like, it's so many things at the same time. You know, you can be grateful and it can be important work and valuable work. And you can say, this is actually quite difficult and I didn't expect this. But the goal now is just to continually to be radically honest with ourselves so that we can, you know, lower our expectations to our actual real lived circumstances and not what the world says. Hey, do this now, carry all these things all the time.
In a world of like AI and the bullshit that we've inherited from, you know, for millennia, your voice is so refreshing. I'm so happy that it resonates with so many people, that it's not, you know, makes me feel good to know that there are millions of other mothers and women who love you as much as I do. Because I'm so over the perfectionistic, salesy, slimy world we inherited and then also live in and promote sometimes, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to be a part of it, and I'm just there. By the way, social media sucks sometimes, as you have witnessed, being on the other side of my social media experience, and I on the other side of yours. But
the words I would add, you were listing words, and I was like, what words would I add to those? Inauthentic and exhausting. You know, when you're just surrounded by all these people saying all these things with all this information about what motherhood should be like and what you should be like and what you should care about and what you should work hard at and where you should spend your time, where you should spend your energy, and da-da-da-da. And like, buy this. How about this now? What about this? What about this? Do this. Like, take this course. Teach other people how to take courses. Da-da-da. Like, it's the inauthenticity and how exhausting it is to have to constantly filter the inauthenticity, because there's lots of great people out there with lots of real, genuine stories and real connection out there. but it's like those little needles in the haystack, those little like grains of sand are just in this like giant vat of sand, and you have the work to like filter all of it to be like, is that true? Is that real? Is that authentic? Do they care, or are they just selling me something? What is? And so it's exhausting. It's
really
empowering to have all the people sharing information that we never used to share, but it's exhausting being like, are you real? Are you authentic? Can I trust you? Or are you just another person telling me something, and then you're going to try and sell me your new protein powder?
I was thinking, you know, I was very inspired by you writing a memoir. I read a lot of books, and barely any of them are self-reflective. I love my guests. I love the books that they write, but there people often write books about what they know, what they see, what they've read, their observations of the world, which have absolute merit. But there are very few people who will say, I have tried it myself. I have literally worked on the farm with my brother as a little kid. I have held my father's hand when he passed away. I have mothered a child with extra needs. I have done it. I have climbed that mountain, and I just have to thank you for it, because it proves to me that, yeah, you deserve a big career and all the goodness that comes with that. You deserve the trip to France with your children. You deserve that. And it's not on the backs of my insecurity. It's out of your life experience and the hard work it took to break generational trauma.
Thank you. So that means more to me than you can imagine. And the reason why is, interestingly, when I first started writing the book, I tried to write a different book. And that is because I had imposter syndrome on my shoulders saying, who are you? Who are you to write this book? You're not an expert. You're not a doctor. You're not a therapist. You don't have experience. You don't have letters beside your name. Who are you to have this book deal? And so because I listened to that voice, I tried to break up my storytelling with more research and more facts and more data and more information. And I broke myself for 6 months trying to get all the perfect data to prove my point so that I could prove to myself that I was worthy of the book that I was writing. And I didn't write in my own voice as much because I thought, well, what do I have to offer? I'm just a regular mom. And it was after submitting that to my editor and saying, hey, here's this piece of crap that I wrote. Let me know what you think.
We would have read it. By the way, we would have read it. We would have loved it,
I know.
I'm sure.
I know. And that's the problem. I was like, hey, I know this is garbage, but it's been 6 months. And let me know what you think.
But it's my garbage.
And it's my garbage. And she basically said, Libby, it's not garbage. You have some great points here, but the magic is in your storytelling and your voice. And,
I love her.
And that is why people followed you. And that is what people need. And that is where your power is in telling your story. And those are the parts that I fell in love with, was your story. And so please, I'm begging you, write more stories.
I have to give her like a box of chocolate, man. She's speaking my language, and I'm so happy you listened, because I do feel like, after reading your book, I thought to myself, well, what would I say? And I would talk about how I fell prey to the marketing of, the bikini mom telling me that if I just had this protein shake, I'd look like that and my kids wouldn't yell and But and whoever else, by the way, literally anyone else who told me I can make it better if you just sign up for my course. I was like, okay, I would write that in my memoir. But I do believe that storytelling is healing. And that you've encouraged your listeners, your followers, first of all, to heal by any means necessary to heal, because they're worth it. Their children need that of them. We need that of them. They deserve that to heal.
They deserve that.
And
Yeah.
storytelling is a beautiful way. Like, I found it so powerful, first of all, to read the book, but also I know you, I follow you closely, I love you. And it was so nice to see that actually being on social media and seeing all the trolls and the shitheads and whatever gave you enough reps to really not be a people pleaser anymore. Because, like, you can't please 200 whole million people. You can't. It's
can't.
impossible.
And everyone's gonna always have opinions.
And they're gonna be
Everyone's
mean.
Yeah, and they are.
And you're gonna even the fact that you faced fame and fortune, that you're a part of Hello Sunshine's inaugural collective, you know, like that in and of itself is a healing. You deserve that.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, writing the book has been healing in and of itself. You know, when my editor was like, no, your power is in your voice. It just like gave me permission to write how I always wanted to write, and not like, oh, how would a writer write this? How would a real professional do this? No, like, I am going to say things how I normally would say it and tell my actual story, because that is why people connected in the first place. You know, I'm not really saying anything new with this book. You know, in a way, I'm talking about letting go of expectations and letting go of perfectionism and people pleasing and healing and being a cycle breaker. It's not brand new information, but I wrote it in the way I wrote it because I wanted to connect with the everyday mom, and not from some like clinical perspective. It's like, I have lived it. I haven't figured it all out. But at the end of the day, anything that I did that changed anything in my life started with being honest with myself about what I'm actually carrying, what my abilities and needs are, what my kids' needs are, you know, what my limitations are. And then going, okay, is it realistic that I carry all this? No, I just was doing what the world said that I should do. And so writing it has been so healing to go from start to end and go, oh, wait a second, I have actually made progress. I share at the end of the book this idea about like the Rubik's Cube, and how I had a breakdown a couple of years ago to my therapist being like, when is it ever going to work? When is all the therapy going to work? I'm still having a hard time. And basically realizing you're always going to have a hard time, but it's been working, and you can tell it's working because you're practicing the things that you've learned. You're practicing being honest. You're practicing adjusting expectations. And I think the message the world tells us is, if you just get enough things right, you'll arrive and you'll get there and you'll figure it out. And what I learned through this is there's no arrival, and also I have the ability to handle whatever comes. And writing the book really sort of like showed that to me as well.
I'm going to read a little bit from it, okay?
Okay.
But when I looked at myself in the mirror, I realized that what I saw on the outside finally matched what was on the inside. I knew who I was. I was a deeply feeling, intensely loving, passionate advocate for well-being. I was an impulsive, creative, and distractible person who was traumatized, but healing, imperfect, but accountable, funny, but also depressed. I believed in Jesus, social justice, love, forgiveness, and boundaries. I was a gentle parent who struggled to feel gentle. I was a caring friend, wife, and a good enough mother. I was a strong, smart, kind woman who told the truth and expected the same in return. For someone who follows you and has followed you for the past, I think it's been 5 years, and I think it was 4 years ago that you came on, it felt so good and validating to know that you see exactly what I see in you. That the self-deprecating Libby on the internet, she exists and we love her. We love her for it. But there were so many times in the beginning of the book where you were like, nah, well, I fucked up. Well, because I'm Libby. And it's like, I don't see you as a fuck up at all. I see you as a hero of sorts. Coming from a really tough background that you actually haven't disclosed before. Maybe we can talk a little bit. You open it up with conversations about your time going to church and the baby parades.
Mm-hmm.
And the circle you found yourself in, which I'm sure was very helpful at some point in your life, but ran its course.
Accurate. First off, how dare you? I think you came to this podcast to make me cry. You were like, I know I'm gonna say whatever I can to make Libby feel all the feelings and make her cry. You've almost made me cry like 3 times already, and so how dare you? And thank you.
Rude.
Secondly, the baby parades. I always have to give this disclaimer that nobody actually called it the baby parades. Okay, that was the term that I coined, the baby parades, because looking back, I'm like, that's what it was, even though we didn't call it that. In my teen years, feel like we should back up to my teen years. In my teen years, when things were very rough at home and I had no sense of belonging and we were very isolated and not connected to any family or friends or community groups or sports or anything. And I mostly just went to school and then farmed, and it was really hard. I didn't have a place to belong. And so when I was invited to a youth group and there was this group of people who were so loving and kind and asked how I was and listened to my feelings and included me in things, I really latched hard. And and in the book I do, and in my life I honor the role that those people in my life played and how they gave me a sense of belonging and security and stability and morality and structure that I deeply needed at the time. And it is also true that I already didn't trust myself, and I already didn't feel like I had any worth, and I already thought that I needed to be good in order to be enough. And so latching onto a place that reinstills all of those messages that I need to be good to be accepted, and that I should
and that you're
trust,
inherently bad,
and that I'm inherently bad, and that I should trust God and not myself, and that my inner voice is out to get me, was really not good for me, and kind of it fucked me up, which I realized later in life that so many things can be true at the same time. And so when I first became a mom at the age, I got pregnant at 25, had my baby at 26. I was old for not having kids yet in my circle. I was in a small rural church where everyone had lots of babies and they had them young, and motherhood was the pinnacle of life. And, that was your job, was to be a great mom, and that could be the best honor that you could ever have. And your job is to raise children. And the mothers I was surrounded by really genuinely seemed to love it and seemed to have like endless patience, like that just spewed like a water hose. And so that's what I expected. And then I also expected something else, which was a general societal baby parade. So the baby parades, if I could describe them, would be like you're in a small church. There's like the aisle down the middle. It's the beginning of the service. Everyone's getting settled. A family would arrive with their new baby. And there was always new babies because the value is pop out more babies. And so new baby comes, everyone's excited. The pastor announces it from the beginning, from the start. Wow. The pastor announces it from the front of the church, and then the family walks up and down the aisle showing their baby, and everyone is like, ooh, it's so cute. And it's true. New babies are cute, right? I mean, new babies look like alien potatoes. They look like little alien potatoes, but there is this like hope of new life, like, oh, it's a baby.
No,
and
yeah,
that's
yeah.
true. And that's true. They're cuter, like 1.5 is kind of like my sweet spot. Like that's a cute baby. But
I don't know about cute, but like the like lizard, like hairless monkey, like tiny little thing,
right,
that is like it's like awe-inspiring.
Right, it's hopeful. It's like, oh my goodness, new life, right? And so we're all like, ooh, ah. But there was just, like clapping and cheering and crying
cute,
and like
cute.
Yeah. So no, it's true. They're not. As I was saying it, I was like, they're not cute. They're like squishy and like.
But we love them. We love them.
But we love
here.
them so much.
Yeah.
And so then we're excited. And so then and then between that and when I was pregnant, I had like this perfect belly. Like I had like the beach ball belly, and I was just like, I just looked like so many people want to look when they're pregnant. It's the only time in my life I've just like been obsessed with my belly. Anyway, people would be like, how are you? How are you feeling? How's your mental health? How's the nursery coming along? Like people treat you like you're just sort of this like magical unicorn of life. Like, oh my gosh. And so I thought like an idiot that meant that once I had a baby, people would also still think that I was valuable. People would also celebrate the hard work that I do waking up all night and feeding my baby. People would check in. The society in general would be like, mothers are so important and they matter so much, and hooray, let's take care of them, and how are you doing, and you matter, and you're a person, and like, wow, you're raising a person. And the reality is the baby comes out and then you go poof, and then you don't exist anymore.
No,
and
you
don't matter.
disappear.
You
to the
disappear.
general
You
public.
disappear. Like
Yeah.
day after.
But like you're still
why is
walking in your skin.
Yeah.
Which
and
is a
like
very...
that is sagging. And the belly, and you're sagging, and you're like,
It
what
hurts.
is this? What is happening? And it hurts, and you feel gross, and you're exhausted. And then when people look at you, you're like Casper. They just look through you, and you're like, but
Right.
wait, yesterday I was
existed.
magical, but now I'm not even human. I don't need to be magical. I just wanted to be a person the whole time, and I went from magical to not even like in existence. And so I don't know what your question was, but that was
It was
baby
we were
parades,
talking
and
about
they
the
set me
baby
up.
parades. The
They
baby
set me
parades.
up. They set me up for this is what it's going to be like. And the circle of influence that I had at the time that I entered motherhood, on top of society's stuff, just compounded this message that you should love motherhood. Motherhood will come easy. You'll have a maternal instinct. Your whole role is to be a great mom, and everything's going to be great. Which, when things stopped feeling great, made me think and feel and believe as though I was the problem.
Mm. But when did you think and recognize or that maybe it was just the community? Not, I don't mean the church with a big C. I think there's absolutely a place for religion and for, oh my gosh, faith is necessary, in my opinion, faith of some kind. But when did you realize that, let's say, that church or this strain of faith was just hurting more than helping? And how come you never mentioned it before?
Oh, that's a great question, actually. I think that this is going to be the most surprising thing in the book, actually, because it's not something I talk about online.
Never.
Mostly because it's a giant can of worms, and social media is a place that wants everything in absolutes, right? This group of people or this whatever is all bad or all good, or like you're a Christian, that means this, or you're a Jewish person, that means this, or whatever. Like people are put in boxes, and social media just makes it worse and worse and worse. And with the state of my mental health, I just have been like, I don't know if I want to go down this rabbit hole because it's so nuanced, and can social media handle nuance anymore? I don't know. And so
if
I've
we're reading
avoided
your book,
it.
we can
And
handle
so,
it.
Now, right, the book can give nuance. And so I will start sharing about it more online. That's why we haven't talked about it. I also tried not to write about it, but I couldn't not, because I realized over time just how much it had completely infused into my sense of self and my sense of motherhood and who I was and my goodness and my enoughness and my worthiness, that I couldn't untangle it. I couldn't write this book authentically and honestly without addressing the very real part of me, which is that latching on to this church community at such a young age and such a traumatized time in my life gave me an unhealthy view of myself and the world, and hindered my ability to choose myself and trust myself. But what was your question? Your question was about the church, and now, when did I realize it? You asked me when I realized it. I realized it over time, slowly. My first inkling was when I stopped feeling like I belonged to the group of moms at that particular church, because they were very much moms who, they homeschooled, they were stay-at-home moms, they were crunchy, there was like one specific version of motherhood that they lived, and that worked for them. And I still have lots of lovely dear friends who live that way. But what that meant was, and they also had these intertwined, connected family generational ties where they mothered together in this like village that doesn't actually exist anymore for the rest of us, whereby the grandparents are involved, and aunts and uncles and kids, and they play together and they kind of raise each other's children. And from the outside, and probably I'd imagine in many ways from the inside, it's beautiful. From the outside, it's like I watched it like this crystal ball, but I couldn't infiltrate it because when I worked, I wanted to work. I never wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. I didn't want to homeschool. I had a completely different lifestyle. And outside of my lifestyle, I also was not a part of their family unit. And so it was never explicitly said, oh, you don't belong with us. But,
Right.
when becomes clear, oh, they're living life together. They're doing Sundays together. They're doing all of this together. And they're so incredibly friendly and lovely on Sunday. But outside of that, that you're maybe not here. That sort of was like, oh, that's interesting and different and feels different. And then we moved, and I went to a different church for a while. And that's when I started to notice some of the other inconsistencies just in general in some of the theology of where I was going and how people in the LGBTQ community were treated,
Right.
how
You mentioned
silent
that
they
in the
were
book.
about George Floyd and racial issues and so many different issues where I thought, why are we not talking about any of these real issues that like affect society? Like, we're supposed to love people, but we're not being known for love. And it just kept growing and growing and growing. And I started, my kids were getting older and asking questions. And I started to feel like, oh, wait a second. Like, yes, I've stayed latched on for so long. Number one, because I do have a faith. And also because this has been the place where I felt like I belonged, and like, who am I without it?
And they taught you
and-
so much, it seemed.
It,
seemed like
and it did.
you
And
came
there's
from
some,
a single parent household, although you do talk about your dad, who seems just like such a special man. We talked about him in the first episode that we had together. But you grew up with a single mom who lived a different lifestyle
Yeah.
to what you wanted for your children, and it did seem like
and those women had
these-
what I wanted.
they had it, and they
had it,
It
yeah.
seemed like they taught you quite a lot. I actually think you would love my friend Melinda Hale, who's a progressive Christian, who talks about all of these issues and just like
Yeah.
loves Christianity, loves Jesus, like can
Yeah.
square away all of these, social and social justice issues in a really holistic, faith-filled way. I hope you guys connect.
To finish answering my question, I'll be very quick here.
You don't have to.
I realized
Take it slow.
it was around the time my kids were 4 and 6 and asking these questions, and the time I really started to realize I don't subscribe to the beliefs that I have just gone along with. I have to figure out what I actually believe. And it was in doing that deconstruction work, then I realized, oh, wait a second, this hasn't just affected my faith. This has affected how I've interacted with motherhood as well, and how I have felt about myself. And it's just added to that feeling that I am only enough when I am self-sacrificing and self-denying. And it was the motherhood trifecta that really made me stop and go, wait a second, am I doing this with intention, or am I just going along with things, and how is that affecting me?
If you're listening to Mom Curious, I know that you have a particular interest in the arts, in culture, in exciting hangs that are IRL. And I know that you could use a break after the summer, quote unquote, break. So I want to invite you to a really exciting film festival that's happening on Fire Island after the kids have left and the families have departed. And it's happening September 18th, 19th, and 20th. It's going to be an incredible hang for tastemakers, industry leaders, of course, filmmakers. And I want you to be there. I'll be there too. So I'll tell you a little bit more about it. The Grove and Pines Film Festival is a love letter to Fire Island, New York. At the film festival, there will be exclusive screenings, top-tier entertainment, exciting parties, merch, secret lounges, and so much more. It's a celebration of authentic queer storytelling. It's happening September 18th, 19th, and 20th. The tickets are on sale now at groveandpinesfilmfestival.com. You wouldn't want to miss the inaugural year of a history-making festival. Grove and Pines Film Festival is a proud nonprofit 501c3 who are offering a $5,000 grant to LGBTQ filmmakers. And we can't wait to see you. So check out GAPFF.com for more details. The way you deconstructed your upbringing, yourself, was so, for lack of a better word, inspiring. And you mentioned Tanya Cutler, who's
Mm-hmm.
a friend of mine, a dear friend who has also helped me enormously in my grief journey. She's been a guest on the show, and I was so happy that you gave her that little plug because I think the work that she does in the relational space between parents, mothers, and children is just holy work, incredible work.
It is.
And it seemed as I was turning the pages that's that moment when you had recognized that you need help and a specific kind of help, that you got that help. You speak openly about taking medication for, for ADHD, being open to being helped. I was really inspired by that work that you did and that you continue to do. Can you walk us through some of that and maybe let the listener in on how you can open yourself up to receiving the care that you need and deserve, even if you're as strong and as smart as you are? You don't have to do it alone.
Yeah.
Was that the
How do I
longest
answer
question
this?
ever?
Yeah. No, I'm just trying to think. Do I want to just answer? Do I want to tell a story? Do I want to give advice?
I want it all, Libby. If you have the time.
Well, I would just say that I am someone who has spent a lifetime trying to prove to the world and myself that I can do it. You know, as a young child and then as a teenager, I was, parentified. I was the adult in our household. I cared for everyone, and I got shit done. Like, if I was Libby who got shit done and worked hard and worked to be enough and became very independent and learned that I couldn't trust other people, that I couldn't rely on them, and so I needed to rely on myself. And then I entered motherhood wanting to aspire to be like the mothers around me, and not knowing the line between maternal sacrifice and martyrdom and neglect. I went so far on the martyrdom and self-sacrifice side that I just was spinning far more plates than I ever should have been at the same time. And it didn't even cross my mind to ask for help because I was just always the person helping other people. And it feels good to help other people. It feels good to be the person that handles it. It feels good to make other people happy. And so I could put my needs on the back burner. I could still function while, participating in self-erasure. I could still be a person in the world that was functioning and lovable by ignoring my needs and ignoring my inner voice and ignoring all of that and not needing help from anyone and being the person who saved other people. And
it was also
it wasn't until it was all I knew. And because I didn't have a sense of self-worth, that's where I got it from. And so without achieving and being the savior and being the fixer and being the person who could spin all the things, then who was I? What was I? Was I even enough? And it wasn't until there was so much and the load was so heavy and my mental health was so dire and I was so broken and shattered and full of rage and grief and all the hard things at the same time that I could no longer function, or I could no longer have the capacity to deal with my children acting like children, that I was really forced to say, I need help. And it wasn't an overnight thing. It wasn't like I went to therapy and then it all got better. Like, I went to therapy just to deal with the postpartum depression, and then I thought it would be all good and I could just move on with my life and just go back to spinning the plates. I didn't realize that opening myself up to help would actually open up a can of worms and unravel so much about why I became the person I became, who walked around with a 5-ton weight on her back and pretended like she didn't and couldn't accept help. And so I started by asking for a little bit of help, and then I was continually surprised that that it didn't get magically fixed, and I had to continually find different ways to accept help and to let go of control and to dig up my past, and I kept going because there were benefits. And I started the healing journey for my kids because I wanted to be the mom my kids needed and the mom I had set out to be in the beginning. And in the end, I realized that I should have and could have always been my own reason. And I think a lot of moms need to hear that sure, you can be a cycle breaker for your kids. You can heal for your kids. Your kids deserve a version of you that's not broken and burnt out and shattered. And your kids are a great reason to get started. But they're not the only reason. And they shouldn't be the only reason. And your well-being and your need to feel like a whole person is reason enough to do the work and to ask for help and to be the best version of yourself. You deserve that as well.
Yeah, I need to hear that sometimes too. You know, in this like living through grief, I often say like, well, I have children, I have my nieces, I have my parents, but often people will turn to me and be like, and you?
Yeah.
And you? It's very easy to see other people's distress, other people's needs, but our own, we exist too. You know, we were someone's baby once too. Still, even, you know, we
it's so
deserve to heal.
radical. It's so wild to me that it is radical to say moms are people too. That was actually one of my, if I didn't call the book Honest Motherhood, I was going to call it Moms Are People Too. Because it just is so wild to me that we are here in the Lord's year of 2026 and saying, oh, I'm a person too. Moms are people too is shocking to people, or is like, oh yeah, like so many of us forget, oh yeah, I'm a person. And it's like the most obvious real fact. That's the most honest, real, true fact that is indisputable, that we are humans. And yet when someone says it to us, we're like, oh yeah.
I actually said that to my dentist yesterday. I was like, I get that you're busy, but I'm a person. And I could see it really register in her face. I could see her shame that she had treated me like a tooth.
Right.
Like, I'm not my teeth. My teeth are connected to me. That's my body. I'm a person. But we forget. It's funny,
and we get used to it. It's what everybody else treats us like, right? Everybody else, you're invisible. So if enough people, it's like the epitome of gaslighting. If enough people treat something like it's fact, you start to think, oh, it must be. If you're in an abusive relationship with someone who says something over and over and over and over and over again, eventually you believe it to be true. And so if all of society treats and acts like we're invisible, then of course we're going to feel that way.
I love the way Roger, your father-in-law, and your husband, Greg, appear in this book. I think often we see men as the opponent or the obstacle in the way of feminism or our achieving our highest dreams and goals in self. And I experienced that not to be true in my own home. And I was so happy you found him at 18.
Yeah.
With all that tea and all that cute, sweet, supportive love. I do think, as we get to know you guys in the book, your dynamic does change as you grow because society raises all of us. And I thought maybe we should touch on that because he is a huge part of you allowing yourself to receive support, help, love in a way that maybe you didn't as a child.
Yeah, my husband Greg is great, and I always joke like I was a child bride, right? Like I share in the book that I turned 21 3 weeks after I got married, which I think surprises a lot of people. At the time, I felt like a middle-aged woman, like I'd lived 17 lives. I was like, oh yeah, I'm ready, like I got this. Now I'm like, oh, I was a child. And I know some of the reasons why I got married so young and the stability that Greg offered and the love that we shared. And I just knew. And also it's interesting looking back on it now, being like, oh, I was so young and he was so good to me. And I was like, I don't want to lose this thing. Like all I'd ever known for my 18 years was instability and chaos and fear. Yeah. And he was just this calm, steady, It's like he was a middle-aged man when he was 19. Like he was just this calm, steady presence. And, you know, he got that from his dad and his family. And so I really, you know, I also like latched onto his family and like, okay, is this how a normal family does it? Is this what they do? Like, is this the norm? And it's really fascinating how the dynamic in our household ended up evolving. Because I think a lot of people, you know, they either grow up in a household where, you know, mom does the quote unquote pink jobs and dad does the quote unquote blue jobs. And there's these maybe traditional gender roles, or maybe they have a different dynamic, or one of them comes from that and the other comes from the other. But I grew up in a single mom household. So I never, while there was a lot of negative things that came from that, I never saw my mom waiting hand and foot on a man. You know, I didn't see her being the person to do everything at home. And so I didn't expect that. Like I entered our marriage not even why would I make your lunch? Like why? I'm not what? That's you're
I'm
capable
not even
of
good
making
at
your
making
lunch.
lunch. You don't even want to
No,
eat
like
my
I'm not
lunch, if I'm
making
being
your lunch.
honest.
It didn't even cross my mind. It didn't cross his mind either, because he grew up with two parents who shared the load. And his mom worked and his dad worked, and his dad cooked dinner and his mom cooked dinner, and his mom dropped them off at daycare and his dad dropped them off at daycare. Like they both just did both things. And so it was just normal to him. Of course he's going to do his own laundry. Of course he's going to put down the toilet seat. I've never had to put the toilet seat down in my life. Of course he's going to, you know, cook dinner, do dishes, like all that kind of stuff. And so we almost like, we didn't even really have conversations about it, because like we're both adult humans who are both going to contribute to our household. And I didn't realize how unique or different or non-typical that was really until much later on. I mean, especially since becoming a content creator. Like I knew that I had friends that had more traditional gender roles, but it's not until I read my comment sections that I was like, oh my gosh, like guys, the bar is in hell. Like you want to rip your clothes off because your husband did the dishes? Like, wow. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry about that. But yeah, things did evolve for us, especially because Greg, he started working as a police officer right after our firstborn came along. And I loved playing house. You know, I didn't have the stability and structure and clean home and, you know, the Martha Stewart growing up. And so I wanted to be that. And so I enjoyed it. I liked cooking. I liked cleaning. I liked things being in order. And I naturally just fell into doing more of it. And that was something I took a lot of pride in. And it wasn't until after my second born when the load just grew so big. And Greg and I never really had conversations about, oh, who's going to keep track of milestones? Oh, who's going to call the doctor? Or who's going to do these things? I just assumed them to be mine and never really communicated. And then one day I was like, oh, I'm filled with rage and I would like to slash your tires because you get to go to work today and think your own thoughts. That I was like, oh,
and sleep.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And oh, wait, I have been prioritizing your needs over mine. Like, you haven't asked me to, but I've done that. And so it did take work for us to re-equalize, whatever it is. It did take work for us to then find, now that we have parents of two children, like what does that look like? But I think we had not the upper hand, like we almost had a head start in that from the beginning, my husband has always seen me as equal to him.
Yeah.
And he values my well-being and he knows how to do laundry. So those things are helpful.
So helpful. My favorite part of the book is when, in actually pretty quick succession, just in the book, you take space from your mother because she was dishonest. And you were healing, and so I know that feeling when you're like drudging up the past in order to be a more present mother, and you're like, wait, this is a pattern, and it has hurt me for many, many years.
Yeah.
And maybe it looks like, telling my kids not to tell me what happened while you were babysitting, but actually this is deep, 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 deep. And you took space from her, and not to give too much away, but I'm gonna give a little bit of just because it's my favorite part. You say that you forgave her. That you forgave her for maybe for that incident, but also just in general. That you forgave your mother for her shortcomings. I mean, and you detail in the book that they're pretty serious shortcomings, actually.
Well, I will just say it was very difficult to figure out what to include and what not to include. I spent many nights trying to figure out what do I say here? Because again, I couldn't when I in untangling how I became who I became, I couldn't not include my mom, and at the same time, she is an alive person with her own story. So it was very hard to figure out what to include and what not to include, and even, the story right before I decided to take a break and go no contact with my mom is just one of several stories that I, chose to tell. And really it came at a time when I was realizing, and my lack of boundaries for my entire life has contributed to who I am now, and the fact that I am struggling to set boundaries with everyone and constantly burnt out now. And so, but my mom, who I love, is a person that I made myself feel responsible for more than anyone, and who I allowed to treat me in ways that I would never let anybody else treat me for so long, because I so prioritized her well-being and her happiness and her needs. And as much as I had talked to my therapist about setting boundaries, I just couldn't get myself away. I couldn't stop myself from breaking my own boundaries and just going back and allowing myself to be treated certain ways. And I just didn't know how. And it was at that moment that I, rather than, saying a boundary and not following through, that I thought I have to follow through. As much as it makes me feel uncomfortable or hurt or grieving, I have to follow through with what I said I was going to do. And so I did, and it was really hard to go no contact. I've spent 30 some odd years feeling like the buck stops with me, and if she needs something, who is she going to go to? It was really, really difficult, and I think it was one of the best things I've ever done, because it gave me time and space away and to figure out who I was outside of being her savior and outside of being the family martyr, and to focus on, myself and the other, and my kids and that kind of thing. And so it was very necessary, and my grief
and the grief.
And it was in the space and time away that I was able to, for the first time, not just see her as my mom who had let me down, who I needed to fix in order to not be let down anymore.
Right.
But I could see
it was self-preservation, like the more
right,
she's
right,
okay.
right.
Every child feels
it
that
was
way.
It was a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, but if my parents are okay, then I'm okay, because that's the truth when you're a child.
Right.
The trouble is when we're in our 30s
and we're snapping at our kids because our mom just said something that triggered us and went back on her word and created chaos in our lives. And now we're screaming at our kids because we're mad at our mom. That you go, wait a second, I couldn't prioritize myself in my relationship with you, but now I have to prioritize them. And by proxy, I guess that means I have to prioritize myself. And for the first time, say no because of them. And then in that time, realize I should have always been able to say no because of me. And also in that time, but even as an adult, right? I would let so many things go. I would be so hurt and just go back and go back and go back and get hurt and go back. And it wasn't until it affected my kids directly that I started going, okay, I can't do this. I can't do this. But in that time and space away, that is when I was able to stop seeing her in that way where I needed to make her okay, to be me okay, and started seeing her as the individual person outside of a mother as well, as an individual who was hurt as well, and a little girl who also had her own trauma. And that's when I was really able to not just say, I forgive you, because I had said it earlier in my life, but to actually truly let go of the pain that I had been caused and accept that that is who she is. That is who she will always be. She may not have intended to do those things. Even if she did hurt me, I'll forgive her for my own sake. And to be clear, that doesn't mean I jumped back into a codependent, enmeshed relationship, But the forgiveness piece is what really allowed me to not just tell all the women on the internet, you're a whole
Right.
human outside of being a mom, and not just say it to myself in the mirror or to my friends, but to say it to my mom as well.
I love that you said, and it resonates for me as a creator myself, and as a daughter and a mother, that I tell women all the time, you don't have to be perfect, and we are going to make mistakes, as our parents have. None of us are perfect. Then I have to apply that to my own parents,
Right.
who really
Right.
genuinely made every effort, every single effort they could, to do the best they can.
Yeah.
And if it weren't for her, for them, we wouldn't be where we were. I thought that was such an emotionally mature place to get to, so authentic and consistent and so honest.
Thanks.
I want to thank you for your work online and in this book, and for coming on today again. I could
Thank
totally
you.
talk to you forever and ever. When are you coming to New York? Maybe let us know where we can find you.
Yeah. Yes. Well, number one, thank you for having me. This has been such a great conversation. I will be in New York in just a few weeks, so we should make something happen, and everyone can find me online. If you look up my name, you'll find me. Libby Ward on Instagram, official Libby Ward on TikTok. Yeah, look me up, find me, those things, and I hope I get to see you in New York.
I would love that so much. Where do we get the book?
You get the book anywhere that you buy books, retailers, Barnes and Noble, Amazon, all the places that you buy books. Audible. I'm an audiobook listener, so, and it's me that
So
reads
am
it. Everyone asks
I
me
saw
that.
I saw that it was on Audible, and I was going to listen to it, but it's not out yet. So I did the dirty work of really reading it and making notes
you.
myself. I loved every second, because I
you.
genuinely love you. Isn't that crazy? We've never met in person, and that's how I feel. There, I said it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Honest Motherhood, out in it's April 14th, 2026. You can pre-order it now. You are welcome in advance. And thanks for listening to this episode of the Mom Curious podcast. This has been a Hoff Studios production. Executive producer, Laura Lucetti. I'm your host and creator, Daniella Rabbani. Come find me at Daniella Rabbani. My DMs are open, and I want to hear everything. Also, if you like the show, please send it to a friend and leave a review, because we are in this together.